Start spreading the news, folks. Welcome back to Puck Talk with Spider Jack, aka Jack Woods. I am thus with me today is Boyd Farrish, longtime comeback guy for Puck Talk. Boyd, how you doing today?
And I'm doing all right. It's a Monday, new week, new opportunities. Hopefully the Nashville Predators will view it that way too.
Yeah, back to the grind. Back to the grind indeed. We've been meaning to set this up for quite some time. I apologize for taking forever. College life is getting in the way, but let's get right off the bat. Nashville Predators 2-3-0, won the first two against Columbus, dropped one against Carolina. The fourth game was postponed due to a COVID-19 concern, and then they drop the last two in Dallas, surrendering 8 power play goals in 2 games. Boyd, to be frank, I don't know where I stand with this team. Go ahead, take it from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. This team, they really didn't look that great in the 2 wins versus Columbus. I think the major takeaway there would have been, they made timely plays when they needed to make them, and really didn't give up those backbreakers. To a team that they probably should be beating anyway. The Carolina game and the first Dallas game, at least at even strength, notwithstanding, or at even strength, were their 2 best performances of the season. They were actually controlling play a lot better, kind of across the board. The possession numbers, expected goal numbers went up more in their favor. But then we get to special teams, and boy, it turns dark pretty quickly, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, analytics be damned. They've lost 3 in a row.
Yep.
Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, as much as I like to say that the goals will come, well, show me that.
Yeah. The lack of finish continues to be a problem with everybody not named Philip Forsberg.
Oh, without a doubt. And we'll get to that. But I mean, Boyd, from your standpoint, watching this team through 5 games, what do you see in terms of the problems being involving the Nashville Predators power play specifically? Because from what I can see, it's kind of the same predictable movements that get it down one end, pass it back to the point, try to get it pass over and do the umbrella thing. But it's just very predictable, in my opinion.
Yeah, the first and biggest problem, and this has been a problem for years, is they can't get in the zone cleanly and get set up. I mean, the amount of times in a 2-minute power play that they end up having to dump the puck in is just, I mean, it's astounding that changing coaches, changing players doesn't seem to change the fact that a clean zone entry on the power play just is a massive struggle. And then even once they do get in, it's, as things have gotten tough, they're reverting back to, 2 or 3 years ago, Nashville Predators, which is pass the puck around the outside and go bombs away from deep. I like that they've moved Arvidsson into a one-timer spot. I think that's probably a better use of his skills than getting mashed in front of the net, even though he is productive there. The fact that in some of those third period power plays last night, when the Predators really needed a goal, it was move it to the outside, move it to a one-timer for Arvidsson, move it around the outside, move it to a one-timer for Arvidsson. And there's no unpredictability there. Where you look at one of the goals that the Stars scored, I think it was their first one. Great high to low play down below the goal line, quick pass back out across the crease to a wide open slot shooter. Now, granted, massive breakdown on the Predator side, but that's the type of unpredictability that creates openings. And, they're still just trying to shoot the puck through a brick wall. And it's just not an effective way to approach the power play.
Yeah, and they continually seem to tie themselves up along the boards, especially in front of the blue line, having to, like you said, dump the puck in. And I really don't like the fact that they're dumping the puck in a minute left in the third period, pulling the goaltender still down by 1. Why are you dumping the puck in that particular scenario? I don't get it. That's not exactly a hunt and chase type of scenario. That's more of a let's find a clean path, set up the zone, and have a hybrid power play, if you will. I don't quite know what this team is wanting to accomplish, because it just seems to me that they traded playmakers like Benino and Turris and Hartman and guys that maybe were a little bit out of the system. They may be guys that could more fit the part, quick, fast forwards that can lay the body a little bit, and guys that can really just follow orders and follow a system instead of trying to be creative with the puck.
I mean, I think that's maybe even part of the problem is the opposite. I mean, at that point in the game, down a goal, you want Forsberg or Yossi or Johansson or Duchesne, the guys that can really get out there and make something happen. They should have the puck on their stick to go make something happen. And instead, that's the way that system unfolds is if the clean entry isn't there, you dump it in. And as you said, that's great in the second period. It's great in the first period when you're, trying to establish a tempo and establish a presence in the game. But at the end of the game like that, I mean, you look at a team like, say the Blackhawks, for example, at that same point in the game, that puck is on Patrick Kane's stick. Period. End of story. And he is going to go make a play. Same thing in Washington. You're going to give it to Ovechkin. That puck at that point needs to be on the stick of Forsberg or Yossi, the guys that can go make a play, and they have to understand that, they have to go do that. We saw that in the first couple of games from Philip Forsberg for sure, where he took a couple of different plays, basically end to end on the ice and went and scored a goal. And while those may have been, a 2-on-1 scenario instead of a 6-on-5, you still have to use that situation to get your best players the puck. And right now, the Predators just aren't doing that in large part.
Well, and we talk about David Poile getting players to reinstate the Predator way, right? And disregard the youth movement. Forget that. That's not happening. Whatever. I mean, I forget it. You're not going to see Tolvanen, Tomasino, at least for a little bit. You're not going to see Trenton or Olivier in the lineup full time. And David Poile made sure of that because he's going to go out and he made moves to get players that can fit a role, and that role reinstates, Predator way. And I don't know, the old Predator way, they would always finish 4th, 5th in the division, maybe fighting for that second or first spot in the wild card. They were never the leaders in their division. They were never the top dogs. And they seem to be influxes of Predator success throughout the years, and I'm just wondering if reverting back to an old system instead of maybe setting aside the pride of the past and letting new players come in and take control of the mantle. I don't know if that's the way to go. Considering what we've seen out of the last 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the concept of the Predator way is kind of a more of a work ethic concept than a system, I would say. Um, and I think they did go out and try to round out the roster with players that sort of fit that Joel Ward kind of mold from a few years ago, who can be rough and bang but still have some offensive capability. I mean, you look at guys like Howla or Cousins, even Luke Cunningham to example. They're a little bit more rough and tumble players. They do have some offensive capability. But I think at the end of the day, though, the biggest thing is your best players have to be your best players. Those are all primarily third and fourth line guys. They can't carry the team. It has to be Yossi and Ellis, which, granted, the last few years they have certainly done their part. I can't have any complaints about them. But even more so than that, it's on Forsberg, Johansson, Arvidsson, Matt Duchene, Michael Granlund, and whoever ends up being kind of the full time in that other second line wing. Those guys have to perform game in, game out. And regardless of system or style or the rest of the roster, like if those guys aren't putting up top six numbers, you're counting on UC Saros just bailing you out constantly, which is not what this team is built to do, honestly. There are some early positives. Victor Arvidsson right now is performing at a point per game. I was actually surprised by that, but yeah, he's 5 points in 5 games. Forsberg has 4 goals in 5 games. So, certainly some positives there, but not a whole lot after that. And then, once you take out, kind of that high level of production from your top units, then you add in something like a disaster of special teams. It just compounds, and it just gets so hard to win. And I think that was one of the things that I've noticed the last couple of years is you look at some of the goals being scored against the Predators right now, and they sometimes look so easy. And then you look at some of the goals the Predators are scoring, maybe some of the 2-on-1s notwithstanding, which certainly is a positive sign. But you look at last year, for example, and just they had to work so hard to score. They can't make it easy on themselves. And again, that comes back to the top of the roster. The top skill guys are the ones that, create those easier opportunities. And, they just, at this point, still aren't doing it consistently enough.
Yeah, and this offense it's built around the top 2 lines. It's built around the guys that you mentioned. It's built around those guys scoring. And if those guys aren't scoring, which, let's be honest, Matt Duchene hasn't scored a whole lot. Ryan Johansson certainly hasn't scored as notably as I would hope he would have. I'm not surprised by Victor Arvidsson. I'm not surprised by Philip Forsberg, obviously, because Philip Forsberg is the man, absolutely the man. And, Victor Arvidsson is no longer the guy that's going to crash into the crease and try to, topple over guys. I think he's had enough sticks in the back from Bortuzzo and Perry and all that. I think he's had enough with getting beat around that he's moving out towards Ovechkin area. And I'm fine with that because as long as he's passing the puck and at least making opportunities available for Forsberg, I'm okay with that. But I don't know. I don't know. I expected this team to be running 4th, 5th, or in the division. This team is not supposed to be playoff competitive. And I think that they're showing why. You do have guys like Philip Forsberg who appear like the big fish in a pond. And then you got guys like Brad Richardson, who has been a phenomenal plug at 5-on-5, but it seems that penalty kill woes are amounting at a rate that they can't quite stop. And
Yeah.
I don't know why the Predators continually have special team issues year in and year out.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the same thing. I mean, they've overhauled the coaching staff. The only remaining coach is from last season, other than the partial of John Hines, is Dan Lambert, and he's not a penalty kill coach. They've swapped out a number of the players, and I think you're seeing some of the same issues. I mean, you look at the first game against Dallas. I think 4 of the 5 power play goals, maybe all 5, were on tips and deflections, which means, again, you're not clearing the net. You're not clearing the net or making the shooter, push the puck somewhere else. Watching, especially that game last night, and watching the penalty kill more closely, and really seeing they're either too passive and they sit back and the puck gets moved around and moved around and moved around, and they're not pushing people out of the way or really pressuring the play, or they get way over aggressive like the first one, and you had both forwards chase the puck out to the blue line corner and both defensemen on the same side of the ice. And as a result, I think it was Gurianov was just all by himself, and UC Saros had no chance whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, I would say, maybe a structural consistency that has to be ironed out. Some of that probably attributable to new faces, but they better work it out quickly, because giving up 8 power play goals in 2 games is absolutely staggering.
Well, I mean, it's high school hockey numbers. It's like, good freaking God, stop the puck. I don't know, like, push him back at the blue line, do something else, do something different. It's the same look over and over again. And I get the mantra, yeah, you want to outwork the competition, but don't outwork yourselves. Don't tire yourselves out in the first and second period chasing down stupid penalties because, you're whacking at players being hyper aggressive at 5-on-5 for no reason whatsoever. It's like, feel the game out a little bit, but I don't get it. Something that I do get, I get that UC Saros is ready to be the Predators' #1 goaltender full time. I'm fully convinced from what I've seen, from what he's played with. Same kind of woes that Pekka Rinne had early in his career. Just a really an aggressive defense, an offense built around a defense, and sometimes leaving goaltenders out to make spectacular saves. And I think that UC Saros is definitely Pekka Rinne incarnate in that regard.
I mean, he's certainly got the ability to do some, really incredible saves with how quick he is and how well he anticipates and tracks puck movement. The problem is still, I think the defense in front of him overall has gotten better than what it was the last couple seasons, where the defensive disparity between Rinne and Saros was marked. It was noticeably different. So it's certainly improved in how they play in front of him. I think one of the major talking points right now is, it's the same problems that have plagued the last couple of years, in that the Predators have a hard time finishing, with the exception of Forsberg. The game against Carolina, they had multiple great opportunities and just couldn't put one away. The game last night, I think Arvidsson had an almost wide open net for a game tying goal and fired it wide. And they're just not finishing. And then every time the Predators make a mistake, it ends up in the back of the net.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a certain element of, first off, the mistakes have to be cleaned up. So you're not just giving up these 3-on-1, 2-on-1 opportunities. And certainly the penalties have got to stop, because they're getting raked over the coals when they go on the penalty kill. But they've got to figure out how to finish. And the sample size is small enough that at this point, I don't know if it's entirely trying to get too cute offensively and make the perfect play, and then you end up getting no play. But then also you see just long shot after long shot sometimes too. And, there's some of that trying to get to the dangerous areas that just isn't quite happening the way it should. And I think a lot of it is, regression when under pressure.
Well, I mean, just shoot the damn puck. Just shoot the damn, like you're taking what, like 7 shots in 40 minutes? Shoot.
Oh, that was pitiful. That was pitiful.
Shoot the damn puck, because once you shoot the puck, then a goaltender makes a save, and then you follow the puck somewhere else, and then you take another shot. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just oversimplified for me. Maybe it's, maybe that's why I'm not an NHL player. Maybe that's why I host the podcast. But you know what? Oh my God, 7 shots in 40 minutes objectively is terrible. It's terrible. I don't care if you're on the penalty kill. I don't care for like 40 minutes. I don't care if you're on the penalty kill for like 14 minutes. I don't care. Put a puck on the net. Quit making UC Soros earn his wage.
Well, and sort of the perfect example of that last night was the goal by Granlund. Arvidsson worked for it on the boards, just threw it onto the net. Granlund got to the right spot and made a play. Mm-hmm. And that's what you have to do to score, because most of the guys on this team aren't going to be out here, blowing open shots by goalies. Not that the Predators are getting that many open shots anyway. So, when it gets into these games, they're, and they're not getting the shots, they're not getting the opportunities, or the opportunities aren't going in. They end up trying to make, again, they go back to the one of two opposites. They either try to make the perfect play because, oh gosh, the shots aren't going in. We got to get that perfect tap in to make sure absolutely that we score. Or it's, we need to put every puck on net, and they just start throwing it from distance, which just, really doesn't work that well either. So the offense, I think, from my perspective, needs to be just maybe a little more purposeful, and they need to, and then on the power play, they have to move the puck more quickly. Mm-hmm. It's, pass it to Yossi. He skates a little bit and moves it to Arvidsson. Arvidsson holds it, moves it back to Yossi. Yossi moves it to Forsberg. Thankfully, Forsberg typically wheels and it kind of goes for that snapshot off of the right side, but it's not moving the puck quickly enough to create those cleaner opportunities. And, and then, they've all but abandoned trying to go low to high into the slot, which is, sort of what the whole purpose was when they moved into John Hines' system last year, was really emphasize that kind of low slot to high slot area where you can get those, much better opportunities. And we just haven't seen a whole lot of it so far this year.
Well, and I don't know if they'll go back to that look, because they can't seem to get the puck down low anyways. They just seem to be comfortable moving it around the high slot and around the circle area. So, it doesn't seem like they want to utilize Matt Duchene down low and try to get that Arvidsson one-timer look near the faceoff circle. But kind of transitioning gears a little bit, how about Kyle Turris scoring a goal for the Edmonton Oilers with an assist from, guess who? James Neal.
And every Preds fan cried immediately.
Yep. Kevin Fiala also scored last night. Saw that.
Mm-hmm.
That one hurt. Pretty sure
Well,
Craig Smith scored as well.
Craig Smith scored recently as well. I haven't looked too closely on how Smith is doing so far this year. I know he missed, I think, the first game, but to be fair on Turris, he has been objectively terrible in their first 5 games.
Oh no, he's
So
been pretty bad from what I've heard.
So I'm honestly, I'd put it this way: I'm happy for him that he got a goal, and hopefully things are kind of working out into a better spot than how they worked out in Nashville. But I'm not looking at Kyle Turris scoring 1 goal in whatever 6 games and crying a lot of tears over it.
No, I'm just being really inflammatory. I just like to be that way for something.
I know you do.
But no, I mean it's weird seeing guys being successful elsewhere, guys getting rewarded for hard work elsewhere. And one thing I was really looking forward to was not facing the Winnipeg Jets this year, simply because I didn't want to have to see Patrick Laine anymore. And then the stupid fucking trade happened between Pierre-Luc Dubois and Patrick Laine, and now the Predators have to face Laine again sometime later this season. Boyd, what is your thoughts on the trade between Dubois and Laine?
Well, I mean, it's certainly a case of 2 guys who were in kind of the similar situation that they kind of both wanted out. I think Dubois is a good player. He's got a lot of capability. He's big. He's got a good shot. We haven't seen him really over a longer period of time ascend to the kind of player that maybe he can be. We know what Laine is. He has one absolutely elite capability, and that is to shoot the puck into the back of the net. And I'm sort of the standpoint that when you can find a player that is uniquely great at one thing, you want to, if you have an opportunity to get that player, you get that player. And so I think it's great for Columbus to get Laine. We'll see if they can hold on to him. Same for Dubois and Winnipeg, honestly. I think for Laine and Columbus, they have an interesting problem. They have a lot of good options at wing, but a lot of question marks at center.
Yeah.
But they do. I mean, the guys they have playing center or will be playing center for them, Texier, Roslovic, even Domi to a bit of a lesser extent. They're all still pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have an opportunity to sort of cement their place in that lineup. Winnipeg, their center core is scary now. Scheifele, Dubois, and Stasny this year certainly is. I can't get a whole lot better than that. And then also recognizing they just drafted Cole Perfetti, who projects pretty highly as well. That even if Stasny sticks around for a couple of years, could probably play a bit of wing. But that really sets them up to be very, very good down the middle for years to come. Again, assuming they can hold on to Dubois, who made it pretty well known he wanted to be put into a larger, more visible market, so he gets sent to Winnipeg.
I do love that. I love that. He basically got sent to the Columbus of Canada.
Pretty much.
I mean,
the only thing there is, I believe his dad works in the Jets organization, so maybe that makes him a little more willing to stay. But they better start working on that contract extension as soon as they can get to it, because I don't think you want him getting to the open market.
I mean, are there like any mountains in Winnipeg, like near it, like maybe a lake, maybe a nice? Does he have like a nice little beach house that he can go to there?
nothing says like the beaches in Manitoba. Um,
I mean, I mean, I would rather get paid like $5 million and go play for the Islanders under Barry Trotz and get to live on a Manhattan beach house for the next 3 years than live in Winnipeg for like the next 3 years under how much ever they pay me. I mean, I would much rather be in a place like New York City than Winnipeg.
yeah, and the fact that it's not the most engaging of places to live, and you still face the same drain of Canadian tax as some of the bigger Canadian cities. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, it is a team that actually probably has a pretty good future. They've got some young talent that they've acquired over the last few years. So maybe that ends up being attracting to Pierre-Luc Dubois, or he just rides it out for a couple of years, hits the open market, and gets paid a whole bunch of money to go somewhere that he is more interested in being. Kind of the same thing for Laine. It'll be very interesting to see how those two players both fit into their new environments, especially Laine and Tortorella.
Yeah.
has the potential to be very special. But it's fun to see, those kind of big trades happen. They spark a lot of conversation. They make the league more interesting, both from a fan and a quasi media perspective. So it's the type of move that as someone who writes about the Predators and also has a long history of being a fan of the Predators, you kind of want to see them make too, is to find that elite level player and bring them into the fold. But yeah, it was, I think, the right move for both organizations, given where they were with those players. I think it remains to be seen if it's the right move for those players.
Yeah, I think it'll benefit Laine more just because I think that the Central Division may have an easier goaltender matchup for a guy of his capabilities rather than facing guys like Carey Price, who still has who still has a few tricks up his sleeve, and facing that guy 8 times a year. But I think like you said, Dubois he's a guy that definitely needed to get out of Columbus, because playing only 3 minutes and 55 seconds and you're supposedly a second liner, get the hell out of my town, like. And I don't know why Torts seems to be the guy that turns off young, vibrant talent that seems to carry some individual weight instead of an individual effort. I don't know why Torts seems to have this like irrepressible ego when it comes to that, but it's beyond me.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a old school hockey guy mentality, and he wants players that are going to play rougher and more physical and stick to the system, and the players that and he's got very heavy handed, very oddly candid in the media, even when he's not saying anything, which is almost impressive. But that works for some players. I mean, there have been plenty of players that said they loved playing for Tortorella, and but you also see it where some players just they don't gravitate towards that, and they want a different environment and a different style of leadership. So it's one of those things where Laine with Tortorella maybe may turn out really well, but I think we all sort of believe the higher likelihood is we get a different kind of fireworks.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, because Line A is a personality, and Winnipeg has definitely made that clear. And
Mm-hmm.
there will definitely be some fun things going on. And Boyd, one last thing I just wanted to talk about with you here. Um, I have no idea how the Predators are going to fix the penalty kill. I have no idea because everything aside, regardless of where they're projected to play, regardless of where they're projected to be in the standings, letting in more goals than periods played over a course of 2 games is probably not a recipe for success.
Yeah, not super hot takey there.
I don't know if that's a hot take. I don't know if that's going
No.
to get me in trouble. You know, for some reason, me saying that good puck possession and will get me in trouble with one of the members of the media. Sorry, Justin. What do you got to say about the power play now?
I mean, I look at it, and I'll sort of voice my own preference around penalty kill strategy. But I mean, I think first and foremost, they need to pick a strategy. Either be aggressive or don't. But if you're not going to be aggressive out to the puck carrier, you have got to clear the net. And right now, they're sort of not really doing either. My personal preference is a more aggressive penalty kill. It's something that every once in a while you will get burned on it. But I'm from just a stylistic perspective, I prefer trying to force the action more than waiting for it to come to you. And just watching some of the Predators penalty kills where, teams just skate circles around them and then eventually move in for that, clean look. It also ends up with your penalty kill units getting trapped on the ice for a long time. So my personal preference is more aggressive. I think early in Laviolette's tenure, we actually saw that be pretty successful. In years where I think Arvidsson was maybe tied for the league lead in shorthanded goals. They were aggressive at the blue line. They were aggressive out to the puck, force the other team to make a play. Don't just stand around and wait for them to make a play. I'm sure there are people who understand hockey strategy that might tell me that I'm way off base, but
yeah,
just from the years that I've spent in organized athletics at varying levels, that's sort of a general philosophy. I'd rather be more aggressive than less. But that requires, the players really, really have to execute, especially on the backside of the play, if you're going to be aggressive out to the puck. And that first goal given up last night, again, the whole unit got stuck on one side of the ice, and Dallas is too good. They have good players who can make that play to clear that pass. And, it was basically a tap in. So, I'd rather see the more aggressive approach, but it does require the execution that they've really struggled with as well. So remains to be seen, kind of what the new coaching staff is able to do with that. But it's a pretty long uphill climb right now. And they're going to have to get better in that realm pretty quickly, or this season's going to get away in a hurry.
Yeah. Yep, and Boyd, I think that's going to do it for this one for Puck Talk. But thank you so much for coming back on, man.
Always a pleasure, Jack. Look forward to it.
Alrighty, folks, we'll be back next time with more Puck Talk. Please tune in for G Nash Playoff Hockeys on Ability Box Radio's Facebook tonight at 5 p.m. and I believe 6:30 and also 7:30 p.m. Be sure to tune in for all G Nash hockey and be on the lookout for more Puck Talk. And Boyd will be back. So have a good night, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.